1027 Business.
Welcome back to Hot Business on Hot 1027. iPulse, manage people, secure your premises, control fraud. And with that, good evening, Zulé, the CEO and Chief Energy Officer, you call yourself, of LocumBase.com. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I believe you are in South Korea talking to us this evening.
I am. Thank you for having me. I am far across the world right now.
Oh, the life of a tech company founder, hey?
Hey, I needed to go on an adventure and get some fresh ideas into my mind, and way better to go than have a complete culture shock.
Yeah, I suppose. I think, I mean, I wouldn't mind a trip myself. It's been a long year. It's been a long lockdown as well. Geez, and I know that the lockdown's been over for a while now, but still, the kind of recovery from that takes some time. In any case, I wanted to talk to you about, obviously, your business this evening, LocumBase. I mean, so my understanding is that it is basically, well, actually, let you explain it to us, in fact. Please tell us a little bit about LocumBase. It's a very sort of innovative tech platform, if you will, that allows doctors and locums to find each other, and a bit more to it than that, though, I'm sure.
Ultimately, we built LocumBase to be a supportive ecosystem for your medical freelancer, which is the simplest way to explain it. A locum is a medical professional or a healthcare worker, from your nurses and care workers all the way through to your specialists that does work as a independent contractor, if you will. So sometimes when you go to your optometrist and there's a new face, it is probably somebody who's only there for the week. Or you go to your pharmacy and get your medicine from a new guy. He may be there filling in for somebody else. So we built a platform to make it simpler, easier, more transparent, and ultimately more affordable for practices and hospitals, pharmacies, to get the best medical professionals to come and stand in for their permanent staff when needed. Traditionally, this has been handled by recruitment companies and labor brokers and agencies who ultimately like taking advantage of the little guy. And we turned that on its head. We are giving the locum the power to take control, to earn their worth, but also to optimize the business of healthcare for the hospital, the pharmacy, the private practice.
Okay, so when you say that the sort of agencies that stand in the middle take advantage, I would assume that what you mean by that is that there are probably locum agencies that specialize in this sort of business, and they I don't know, charge huge fees or take a big cut. How does the industry traditionally work?
Ultimately, it's a lack of transparency. What we found, in our research and actually talking to the people who actually do the work, is that at the end of the day, the locum puts very little in their pocket of what the practice is actually paying the agency, and that is a horrible thing when you actually start talking to people who are, the pharmacists and the pharmacy assistants and the optometrists, the doctors. So what we've done is we've built a platform where a locum, let's start with an optometrist, where an optometrist can create a profile, put up all their information, their qualifications. They can, they put on what their fee is. Obviously, we give them a bit of a window, to be fair, but they decide what they're worth. So a practice doesn't have to go back and forth, doesn't have to email, doesn't have to be on the phone. They can literally go onto locumbase.com, put in a quick search. I want an optom with 5 years experience in this area, and my budget is between X and Y. And only those that are available on the dates that they choose will come up in their search results. So now you've already saved about 4 emails, right? And how much time is that?
Well, it depends on how quick people respond. That could be 2 days.
Yes, exactly. And that's frustrating. Hey? If you know that your regular optometrist or your regular doctor is going to be, going on holiday, or suddenly somebody is sick, you need something quick, right? Yeah. You can't be sitting for 2 days waiting.
So then, now let's say, okay, I'm the doctor or I'm the practice. I've now found the locum that I want to use. How does it work? Do you intermediate the payment between the two parties, or do I just contact directly to the locum? how do you make money?
So we put a flat fee of 15%. So what happens is a practice will come on, find the locum they want, book them immediately. A message goes to the locum to say, hey, this practice wants you to come to them next week for 4 days. This is how much money you're going to make. You as the locum, you say, yes, I'm in. The practice gets a confirmation. Once that confirmation is through, that's done. Then the practice, they will pay LocumBase, and LocumBase makes sure that the locum gets the money in their pocket, because that is probably the ultimate frustration for the individual medical worker, is having to beg agencies for their payment, which is ridiculous. I mean, you shouldn't be having to beg for your money when you went and did a job.
Okay, all right. So, and then you obviously then, I guess, charge out to the doctor and then intermediate that payment. So you take it onto yourself and you pay it out to the practitioner. So, I mean, it sounds simple enough, but there's quite a bit of tech that goes into the back of this. I mean, building these platforms from scratch, it sounds very easy. I saw someone putting something, I can't remember if it was on Twitter, where they, I think it was Frugal Local, is a worthwhile Twitter account to follow. It's also sort of in the tech space and, you know, plays around with this type of stuff. And somebody approached him and said, look, we want to build a video platform similar to YouTube. My budget is 30 grand. You know? So what are some of the challenges that you've faced with these types of, well, with building this thing, right?
Petri, we don't have enough time for that. No, I'm kidding. You know, first off, I'm not a programmer. I'm not a developer. I can't write a line of code if you beg me. So my role at the beginning was pretty much, you know, processes, talking to people, hearing their problems, and finding a way to make a solution. Because, you know, I like to describe myself and my team as a group of solutionists. And ultimately, tech was the way to create a solution. You know, at first, we did, my partner and I, we did build something really ugly and really simple with PHP that we taught ourselves over YouTube. But we needed somebody who knew what they were doing. I took my last savings that I had because I knew this had to be done. And if we didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it and they're going to do it wrong. And got someone to put together some specifications. And now I had to go find a tech partner, which is a very, very difficult thing to do when you don't know anything about coding. So the difficulty with that is finding the right partner, because you just don't know. And I think with an unconventional tech founder like I am, you trust very quickly because you just believe that these guys are going to do what they say they're going to do. And unfortunately, that is not always the case.
So you end up kissing a fair amount of frogs. And none of them turn.
Yeah. You know, I like calling it, you know, school fees. Right. Very expensive school fees, but mostly it's time. You know, this is a game of time and being quick. And I mean, as you would know, startups, time is and the fact that we can move fast, time is what we have. So I've made quite a bit. I did make quite a few mistakes at the beginning, and I'm sure I'm going to make many more mistakes. But that is how I probably learned the most important lessons. So for us, when we got our first angel funding, and I could actually go forth and start properly building things, finding the right people was a difficult one.
And I mean, were there certain characteristics or traits that you were looking for in people to join your team? How do you know you're picking the right people?
An entrepreneurial spirit in every role is very important for me when I look at my team. And another piece that's on a more personal level important for me when I build a team is I only want people who have something that I admire. If there is not something that I admire about what you've achieved in your life or what you've overcome in your life, or the dreams you have that you want to achieve, you know, it needs to be something we can relate to with each other, because ultimately this is a greater mission. You know, the greater mission here is to make sure that quality care is available where and when it is needed most. And you know, you can use an external team which is sometimes difficult because you have very little control. You can have internal devs, which is a quite an expensive exercise. The thing with developers, especially in South Africa, is that they get snapped up by corporates very quickly. And corporates can give them much more in perks and salary than startups can. So finding the right ones that has the spirit of startup, the spirit of wanting to innovate, to be different, to want to be disruptive. Those are the people that I look for. Those are the people I want on our team. People who want to do things differently.
Look, that's a very hard thing to find. And I mean, from my own experience as well, building my own little business, I've also had a situation where I found someone who I thought was great for a role, had some programming knowledge, made an offer to them, and a week or so later they came back and said, well, look, a big bank offered me 3 times more, so I'm going. So finding the right skills is tough. But
the exact same thing happened.
You've built a fairly successful business so far. I mean, I've been tracking some of what you guys have been doing, and you've won a number of sort of, what do you call them, innovation awards and entrepreneurial awards and all sorts. So it seems, at least from where I stand, that things are starting to grow really well. I mean, what was the first challenge for you to get people to actually to trust the platform? I mean, that's sometimes difficult for founders of new products or services, is that, how do you build trust with people that have essentially never used your service?
That is a difficult one. We've been going now strongly since the beginning of 2018. And to be super honest with you, it's really only now that we've got product market fit.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's a long journey. I think that's one thing that people need to remember, is that it does take longer than what you anticipate.
But it's amazing though. We went through many iterations. We went through, so many changes, team changes as well. But that thing of trust, you need to communicate with people and actually asking the people that's going to use your platform, what do you want? And watching them, how they use it, watching them, how they work. Because sometimes people can tell you what they want, but they don't really know what they want until they do it, right? So I feel, and us as a team, communicating with the people on the ground, that is how you build trust. I mean, we go into hospitals and we go speak to the nurses. We don't only speak to their managers. We don't only speak to their bosses or the CFO. We speak to the people who are actually doing the work. And that's important to them, because it's rare that people actually ask them what they want, what they need, or what they feel is missing.
Yeah, I think there's a good lesson in that, is to build your product or service around your customer. Find out what they want and build the product for them, rather than, building what you think is going to be cool. Build what people really want.
That notion of build it and they will come is absolute nonsense. It does not work that way. I mean, it's an ideal, but very rarely does it work.
Okay, well, Zulé, thank you very much for your time this evening. Zulé Vuuren from LocumBase.com, the founder and chief energy officer. You're on Hot Business. Tech Tuesday was brought to you by iPulse. Their tech verifies the identity of anyone accessing your premises. Call 0860 iPulse today. iPulse. Manage people, secure your premises, control fraud.
Hot 1027 Business.